For
The
decades,
human
you
brain,
have been
weighing
lied
about
to
3
about the 3
pounds,
pounds
is a
of fat
complex
and
organ
water
of
sitting
folded
inside
gray
your
and white
skull.
matter. On the
We
left,
are
a healthy
living in an
brain with
era
vibrant
of
tissue and full function.
unprecedented
On the right,
cognitive
a brain showing
decline,
cognitive decline.
chronic brain fog, and mental exhaustion among younger generations. And it is not a genetic accident. It is the direct result of a multi-billion-dollar technology, food, and wellness complex that has designed a modern lifestyle explicitly
Dendrite
engineered
damage
to
triggers
age your
accelerated
neurons
degeneration.
faster. You have
Time
been
for
convinced
work.
to adopt
Yes,
productive
then
habits
rest.
that actually destroy your attention span, consume healthy conveniences that inflame your meninges, and rely on digital tools that literally shrink your hippocampus. The institutions you trust have peddled myths so deeply ingrained in our culture that questioning them feels like heresy. But the neuroscience has quietly moved on, leaving you holding the bag of outdated, damaging daily routines. It is time to dismantle the carefully constructed illusions about how you protect and use your mind. Here are 42 of the biggest lies about your daily habits that are secretly accelerating your brain's aging process. 1. You've been told that multitasking is a highly valuable skill that makes you more productive. You believe you can efficiently write an email, listen to a podcast, and plan your dinner all at the exact same time. Corporate job descriptions demand it. Productivity gurus preach it. And we all proudly brag about our ability to juggle a dozen mental tabs at once. The truth is, multitasking doesn't exist. Your brain is just rapidly task-switching, and it's burning through your cognitive reserves. The human brain is biologically incapable of processing two complex, attention-demanding tasks simultaneously. When you think you are multitasking, your brain is actually violently shifting focus back and forth in fractions of a second. This constant switching drains oxygenated glucose from the prefrontal cortex, spikes the stress hormone cortisol, and drastically increases your error rate while temporarily lowering your effective IQ. Chronic task switching actually reduces the gray matter density in the anterior cingulate cortex. The glorification of multitasking originated in the 1990s tech boom, as a way for corporations to squeeze more output from workers using early computers. We mistakenly applied computer terminology, where processors actually can multitask, to human biology, treating our brains like machines. Turns out, your impressive multitasking isn't making you a genius. It's just making you terrible at 3 things simultaneously. 2. You believe that using Google Maps and GPS every day is a harmless habit that frees up your brain to think about more important things. You rely entirely on the app's voice to navigate to a coffee shop 2 miles away. Big tech companies have framed satellite navigation as an indispensable modern convenience, liberating us from the annoyance of remembering routes. The reality is that outsourcing your spatial navigation to a phone directly shrinks your hippocampus, the brain's memory center. Spatial navigation and cognitive mapping are among the most important evolutionary exercises for stimulating neurogenesis, the creation of new neurons. When you blindly follow a GPS, this part of the brain goes unused and begins to atrophy. A shrinking hippocampus is one of the earliest clinical biomarkers for dementia and Alzheimer's disease. GPS technology was originally developed by the military to guide missiles, but when it was commercialized for smartphones, app developers designed it to make you completely dependent so they could harvest continuous location data. So, the soothing voice of your Maps app isn't just taking you to your destination, it's slowly deleting your mind's ability to find its own way home. 3. You've been told that playing Sudoku, crosswords, or paying for brain-training apps will prevent dementia and keep you sharp as you age. You think filling out numbers on a screen is a gym for your mind. Software companies and targeted ads constantly claim these games are the ultimate workout to protect your cognitive future. The truth is, brain-training games don't make you smarter or younger. They only make you better at playing that specific game. The Global Council on Brain Health reviewed massive amounts of literature and concluded that repeating a specific logic puzzle does not build the cognitive reserve needed to ward off Alzheimer's. The brain requires complex, novel, and socially interactive challenges, like learning a new language or dancing, to create new neural pathways, not a monotonous digital grid. The billion-dollar brain training industry exploded in the early 2000s, capitalizing on the aging baby boomer generation's fear of memory loss. They intentionally conflated the legitimate neurological concept of neuroplasticity with playing casual video games. Turns out, finishing a hard-level Sudoku doesn't protect you from dementia. It just proves you have a lot of free time. 4. You believe that doom-scrolling the news every morning is the habit of a responsible citizen keeping up with the world. You think consuming a constant stream of global events makes you informed and sharp. Digital media outlets and social platforms slap breaking news banners on everything to make you feel like you're missing out if you disconnect. The reality is that consuming constant tragedy places your amygdala into a permanent state of survival alarm, structurally damaging your brain. The human brain evolved to handle immediate, short-term threats, not to process a 24/7 digital feed of global suffering. Chronic doom-scrolling triggers a relentless cascade of cortisol, causing neuroinflammation and suppressing the growth of new cells in the prefrontal cortex, which impairs your emotional regulation. The 24-hour news cycle was pioneered by CNN in the 1980s and was later weaponized by social media algorithms. Tech companies discovered that outrage and fear keep users on the platform 6 times longer than positive content, turning your biological panic into ad revenue. So, reading the news at 6 a.m. doesn't make you an intellectual. It just sets off the fire alarm in your head and unplugs the sprinkler system. 5. You've been told that leaving the TV on as background noise while you work or do chores is a harmless, relaxing habit. You think that low hum fills the empty space and keeps you company. Millions of households keep televisions blaring all day long, treating the broadcast as a comforting presence. The truth is, continuous background noise overloads your brain's auditory processing system and degrades long-term attention. Even when you aren't actively watching, your brain is still forced to continuously filter and process fragmented conversations, abrupt volume changes in commercials, and sensational sound effects. This passive acoustic processing drains cognitive resources, causing mental fatigue and reducing your ability to focus on real-world interactions. This habit stems from the dominance of cable TV in the 1990s, when networks designed bland daytime programming, specifically so stay-at-home adults could leave it on without paying close attention, artificially inflating viewer ratings. Turns out, the TV murmuring in the corner isn't a companion. It's a parasite, quietly feeding on your cognitive bandwidth. 6. You believe that eating a low-fat diet is the best way to protect your blood vessels and keep your brain sharp. You rigidly avoid animal fats, butter, and egg yolks to prevent strokes. Health magazines, traditional cardiologists, and the entire diet food industry have framed dietary fat as public enemy number 1. The reality is that your brain is composed of 60% fat, and refusing to consume natural saturated fats is literally starving your neural structure. The brain requires massive amounts of cholesterol to build myelin, the insulating sheath around nerves that allows signals to travel quickly. When companies remove fat from food, it tastes like cardboard, so they replace it with massive amounts of refined sugar. This sugar causes brain insulin resistance, often called type 3 diabetes, which is the actual driver of amyloid plaques in Alzheimer's. The low-fat lie traces back to Ansel Keys' deeply flawed, cherry-picked research in the 1950s. It was cemented in 1967 when the sugar industry secretly bribed Harvard researchers to publish a review blaming dietary fat for heart disease, exonerating sugar entirely. So, your fat-free yogurt isn't protecting your mind. It's stealing the building blocks of your nervous system and replacing them with a sugar bomb. 7. You've been told that drinking a glass of fruit juice every morning is the healthiest way to get vitamins and brain energy. You view it as a clean, natural boost to start your day. Beverage conglomerates and breakfast commercials constantly pair images of orange juice with vitality and health. The truth is, drinking juice stripped of its fiber is slamming your liver and brain with a fructose shock that accelerates cellular aging. Without natural plant fiber to slow down absorption, the sugar in fruit juice enters your bloodstream as fast as a can of soda. This massive glycemic spike triggers a flood of insulin, followed by a drastic sugar crash 2 hours later, leading to brain fog, jitteriness, and lost focus. Over time, these spikes inflame the microvessels that feed your brain. The morning juice habit was entirely fabricated in the 1920s. American citrus farmers had a massive surplus of oranges and hired advertising executives to create a new breakfast standard to sell their rotting crop. Turns out, your elegant glass of fresh-pressed juice isn't the fountain of youth. It's just flat soda rusting your neurons. 8. You believe that scrolling through short-form videos on TikTok or Reels right before bed helps your brain wind down after a stressful day. You think mindlessly swiping requires no thought and invites sleep. Entertainment platforms aggressively market themselves as the perfect escapism to cure your modern burnout. The reality is that swiping through infinite videos attacks your brain's dopamine reward system, causing chemical exhaustion and shattering your sleep architecture. Every 15-second video delivers a micro-hit of dopamine. Your brain has to work at maximum capacity to context switch constantly from a comedy skit to a tragedy to a cooking tutorial. This sensory overload hyperstimulates the sympathetic nervous system, preventing the cortex from entering the slow-wave sleep required to flush out toxic neuroproteins. The infinite scroll was invented in 2006 for user convenience, but Silicon Valley engineers quickly transformed it into a behavioral mechanism identical to a casino slot machine to maximize ad exposure. So, scrolling in bed isn't relaxing your brain. It's forcing your neurons to run a marathon right before they're supposed to rest. 9. You've been told that full retirement, doing absolutely nothing but relaxing on a beach, is the ultimate reward for a lifetime of hard work. You dream of the day your brain no longer has to solve complex problems. Financial planners, insurance companies, and pop culture paint the ideal retirement as a permanent state of leisurely inaction. The truth is, the sudden drop in cognitive challenge and purpose after retirement is one of the fastest triggers for cognitive decline and dementia. The brain operates on a strict use-it-or-lose-it basis. When the daily pressure of problem-solving, decision-making, and complex social navigation is abruptly removed, synapses begin to prune themselves. Studies show that early retirement without a cognitively demanding replacement activity, like learning a new trade, volunteering, or writing, accelerates memory loss by up to 40%. The concept of retiring at 65 was a political invention by German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck in the 1880s. Life expectancy was so low that retirement was meant to last only a few years before death, not a 20-year mental vacation that atrophies the brain. Turns out, doing nothing isn't a dream. For your brain, it's a slow-motion death sentence. 10. You believe that pulling an occasional all-nighter to finish a project or cram for an exam is harmless as long as you sleep in the next day. You treat sleep like a bank account where you can deposit and withdraw at will. Hustle culture, elite universities, and demanding bosses view sleep deprivation as a badge of honor and a sign of true dedication. The reality is that just one single night of total sleep deprivation triggers the immediate buildup of beta-amyloid and tau proteins, the exact biomarkers that cause Alzheimer's disease. Your brain's glymphatic system, which flushes out metabolic waste, only operates at full capacity during deep, slow-wave sleep. When you stay awake, the cleaning crew never shows up. The cellular damage and toxin accumulation that occur during that all-nighter are permanent and cannot be reversed by sleeping 12 hours the following weekend. The myth of the sleep debt you can easily repay was popularized in the 1990s by misinterpretations of early sleep science, giving workaholics a pseudoscientific excuse to abuse their bodies. So, staying up all night to finish a presentation doesn't make you successful. It just ensures you won't remember your success when you're older. 11. You've been told that using autocorrect and predictive text is a brilliant optimization of your time. You let your phone finish your sentences because typing every letter is inefficient. Software engineers praise these features as an AI-driven leap forward that makes communication frictionless. The truth is, relying on autocorrect is eroding your brain's lexical retrieval skills and actively shrinking your vocabulary. When you struggle to spell a word or recall a specific phrase, you strengthen the neural networks between your temporal and frontal lobes. Letting AI guess the word for you bypasses this productive struggle. Over time, this leads to digital amnesia, making it harder for you to speak fluidly in real life because your brain is used to being spoon-fed vocabulary. Apple mainstreamed aggressive autocorrect with the first iPhone in 2007 purely to compensate for a clunky touchscreen keyboard, inadvertently turning it into a cognitive crutch for the entire planet. Turns out, your phone isn't finishing your sentences because it's smart. It's doing it because it knows your brain is getting lazy. 12. You believe that true meditation means sitting perfectly still and forcing your mind to be completely blank. You feel stressed and frustrated when thoughts inevitably pop up, convinced you are failing at resting your brain. The billion-dollar mindfulness app industry and westernized yoga retreats constantly repeat the directive to clear your mind to achieve health. The reality is that forcing your brain to stop thinking goes against its core biological function, and trying to do so actually increases anxiety. The brain is programmed to constantly predict the future and process information via the default mode network, DMN. Trying to force it to stop is like trying to hold back a pressure washer with your bare hands. To truly rest your brain, you need to engage in a low-stakes flow state, like knitting, walking in the woods, or doing dishes, which naturally quiets the DMN without forced suppression. This rigid version of meditation is a Western commercialization of Eastern philosophies, flattening a complex spiritual practice into a fast food pill sold for $10 a month on an app. So, failing to sit in absolute mental silence doesn't mean your brain is broken. It means you are a healthy, functioning human being. 13. You've been told that vaping is a safe alternative to smoking that doesn't harm your brain because it lacks tar and combustion. You think inhaling fruit-flavored water vapor is a benign habit. Social media influencers and the vaping industry market e-cigarettes as a sleek, harmless tech accessory for modern adults. The truth is, the synthetic nicotine salts in modern vapes are hijacking your brain's reward system faster and more violently than traditional cigarettes ever did. Vapes deliver highly concentrated nicotine into the bloodstream in seconds, triggering massive dopamine spikes and permanently altering receptor density in the prefrontal cortex. This drastically impairs impulse control and creates chronic brain fog and anxiety when the chemical is withdrawn. Big Tobacco quietly bought up the vaping industry in the 2010s. They used USB-like designs and cotton candy flavors to bypass regulations and intentionally hook a new generation of brains on the most addictive chemical legally available. Turns out, you didn't biohack your way to safe smoking. You're just beta testing the software update for nicotine addiction. 14. You believe that wearing sunglasses the second you step outside is the best way to protect your eyes and health. You've been warned that the sun will age your skin and cause cataracts, so you block it completely. Dermatologists and the fashion eyewear industry relentlessly warn us about the deadly dangers of any UV exposure. The reality is that entirely blocking morning sunlight from hitting your retina severely disrupts your circadian rhythm and drives up depression. Your brain's master clock relies on bright, unadulterated natural light entering the eye in the morning to set the daily cycle for serotonin, mood and energy, and melatonin, sleep. Slapping on dark lenses at 8 a.m. tricks your brain into thinking it's still twilight, blunting your cognitive energy for the day and ruining your sleep architecture that night. The absolute terror of the sun stems from 1980s sunscreen and sunglass marketing campaigns, which lumped all light exposure into cancer risk while completely ignoring basic neuroendocrinology. So your designer shades aren't making you look cool. They're trapping your brain in a permanent, low-energy twilight zone. 15. You've been told that drinking meal replacement smoothies and eating ultra-soft foods is a highly efficient, gentle way to nourish your body. You prefer liquid meals to save the time and effort of chewing. The wellness industry pushes detox smoothies, and tech bro culture invented liquid meal replacements like Soylent to optimize the workday. The truth is, removing the mechanical act of chewing drastically reduces blood flow to your brain and actively contributes to cognitive decline. Mastication, chewing, acts as a powerful mechanical pump, increasing oxygen-rich blood flow to the cortex by up to 25%. Neurodentistry studies show that a reduction in bite force directly correlates with hippocampus atrophy and memory loss in aging adults. When you only swallow liquids, your central nervous system loses a crucial source of sensory stimulation. The shift toward ultra-soft food was driven by the processed food industry, which removes crunchy, fresh ingredients to extend shelf life and lower manufacturing costs. Turns out, your liquid meal replacement isn't the future of nutrition. It's starving your brain of the workout it needs to stay sharp. 16. You believe that keeping your home and office at a perfect, unchanging 72 degrees Fahrenheit with air conditioning is ideal for your mental health. You hate the feeling of shivering or breaking a sweat. Corporate ergonomics experts design sealed glass buildings with HVAC systems that maintain a completely static, comfortable temperature 365 days a year. The reality is that never experiencing minor temperature shocks deprives your brain of a miraculous protein that protects cells from degeneration. When you experience brief, intense heat, like a sauna, or shivering cold, like a cold shower, your body produces heat shock proteins and brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. These repair damaged DNA and stimulate the growth of new neural branches. Living in a thermally flat environment makes your nervous system fragile and strips away its natural resilience to biological stress. The obsession with the standard temperature comes from 1970s commercial building codes designed to optimize the comfort of male workers wearing full suits, not neurobiology. So, blasting the AC all day isn't protecting you. It's incubating a weak nervous system that can't handle a gentle breeze. 17. You've been told that constantly venting your frustrations and complaining to your friends is the best way to process negative emotions. You believe that if you don't let it out, your brain will explode. Pop psychology and social media memes encourage chronic complaining as a valid form of self-care and emotional release. The truth is, chronic venting physically rewires your neural pathways to default to negativity, making you highly susceptible to clinical depression. Based on Hebb's law, neurons that fire together, wire together, every time you repeat a frustrating story. You pave a neurological highway for pessimism. This actually thins the prefrontal cortex and enlarges the amygdala. Furthermore, listening to you complain spikes the cortisol levels in the brain of the friend you are venting to. The "let it all out" advice is a distortion of early 20th century Freudian psychoanalysis, which incorrectly assumed emotions function like steam in a pressure cooker that needs a release valve. A model modern neuroscience has entirely debunked. Turns out, that coffee date to complain about your boss isn't healing you. It's reprogramming your brain to hunt for misery. 18. You believe that sitting motionless in an office chair for 8 hours is perfectly fine, as long as you hit the gym for 1 hour of intense cardio afterward. You think sweating on the treadmill erases the sins of the chair. Personal trainers and the fitness industry sell the 60-minute workout class as the ultimate antidote to the modern work week. The reality is that sitting completely still for hours causes cerebral perfusion damage that no single workout can reverse. When you sit immobile for more than 2 hours, your blood flow to the brain slows down, reducing the clearance of metabolic waste. The damage from sedentary behavior is an independent risk factor for brain aging. Your brain requires small, frequent movements, like standing, stretching, or pacing every 30 minutes, to maintain continuous blood perfusion, not a single massive shock of exercise at 6 p.m. The sit-all-day, gym-at-night model is a capitalist compromise. Corporations didn't want to change their exploitative desk-bound work cultures, so they built after-hours gyms to make employees fix the damage on their own time. So, that expensive gym membership can't save your brain if you spend the rest of the day rooted to a swivel chair like a potted plant. 19. You've been told that keeping your house hyper-sterile, using 99.9% antibacterial soap, and avoiding all dirt is the best way to protect your brain from disease. You constantly sanitize your hands and surfaces. Chemical cleaning companies use terrifying microscopic animations of germs in commercials to scare you into buying bleach. The truth is, sterilizing your environment destroys your gut microbiome, which directly causes brain inflammation and cognitive fog. The gut and the brain are directly wired together via the vagus nerve. A healthy gut microbiome, built by exposure to natural bacteria in soil, pets, and fermented foods, produces 90% of the brain's serotonin. When you live in a sterile bubble, good bacteria die, the gut lining weakens, and toxins leak into the bloodstream, traveling straight to the brain to trigger depression. This sterile obsession was born in the 1950s when the post-war chemical industry needed a new market for industrial disinfectants and pivoted to terrorizing housewives. Turns out, your antibacterial hand sanitizer isn't making you smarter. It's mass murdering the exact microbes keeping your mind sane. 20. You believe that turning on night shift or the blue light filter on your phone completely neutralizes the damage of screens, allowing you to scroll safely in bed. Smartphone manufacturers heavily market these warm-tinted screen modes as an ergonomic miracle that protects your circadian rhythm. The reality is that the stimulating content you are consuming damages your sleep architecture far more than the color of the light ever did. While reducing blue light slightly blunts melatonin suppression, reading an aggressive work email or watching a stressful video on a yellow-tinted screen still spikes your adrenaline and cortisol. Your brain cannot power down for restorative rest when it is being bombarded by interactive, high-stakes information, regardless of the screen's hue. Tech companies introduced these filters to placate sleep researchers, providing users with a perfect psychological alibi to stay glued to their devices for an extra 3 hours without feeling guilty. So, that yellow screen isn't lulling your brain to sleep, it's just a warm-colored disguise for an attention-harvesting machine. 21. You've been told that having a nightcap of whiskey or wine before bed is a sophisticated way to relax your nervous system and ensure deep sleep. Pop culture and classic movies romanticize the image of a stressed executive pouring a drink by the fire to wind down. The truth is, alcohol utterly destroys your brain's REM sleep architecture, turning recovery into a toxic, fragmented coma. Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. It knocks out the cortex so you lose consciousness quickly, but it blocks the brain from entering REM, where memories and emotions are processed. When the alcohol metabolizes in the middle of the night, the body rebounds by releasing adrenaline, causing you to wake up sweating. You wake up with a brain that hasn't been maintained, accumulating cognitive debt for years. The alcohol industry funded highly misleading studies in the 1990s to promote the heart-healthy benefits of evening wine, conveniently ignoring its devastating impact on sleep architecture. Turns out that glass of Merlot isn't singing you a lullaby. It's knocking you out cold and tying the hands of your brain's cleaning crew. 22. You believe that curating your social media to only follow people who agree with your political and social views protects your inner peace. You immediately block anyone with a dissenting opinion. Social media algorithms and digital safe spaces encourage you to isolate yourself in comfortable, frictionless echo chambers. The reality is that avoiding cognitive friction causes the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for critical thinking, to literally atrophy. When you only consume information that confirms your existing beliefs, your brain never has to expend metabolic energy to analyze, doubt, or reevaluate. This leads to cognitive miserliness. The brain loses its neuroplasticity because it is no longer challenged by paradoxes, debate, or novel perspectives. Platforms like Facebook engineered these echo chambers not to protect your feelings, but because showing you content you agree with keeps you scrolling longer, maximizing ad revenue. So, blocking everyone who disagrees with you doesn't bring you peace. It turns your brain into a stagnant puddle of unchallenged assumptions. 23. You've been told that grazing on 6 small meals a day keeps your blood sugar stable and provides a constant stream of energy for your brain to function. Fitness magazines and the snack food industry constantly advise you to never let your stomach get empty. The truth is, eating constantly locks your brain out of using its most premium, high-efficiency fuel source: ketones. Every time you eat, your body releases insulin, which stops the burning of stored fat. When you fast for longer periods, your liver converts fat into ketones, which easily cross the blood-brain barrier. Ketones produce less oxidative stress and stimulate the growth of new neurons. Grazing on snacks all day traps your brain on a roller coaster of glucose dependency and crashes. The 6 small meals advice was a marketing masterstroke by food conglomerates to ensure you continuously consume their packaged granola bars and energy drinks. Turns out, your 3 p.m. snack isn't fueling your mind. It's denying your brain the chance to run on high-octane biological fuel. 24. You believe that drinking water exclusively from plastic bottles is cleaner, safer, and healthier for your body and brain than tap water. You keep a fridge stocked with sparkling, pristine plastic bottles. Beverage corporations print images of untouched glaciers and snow-capped mountains on labels to convince you of absolute purity. The reality is that drinking from plastic bottles daily pumps microplastics and endocrine-disrupting chemicals directly into your brain's blood supply. Recent studies reveal that thousands of nanoplastic particles shed from the bottle can cross the blood-brain barrier. Along with chemicals like BPA and phthalates, these particles act as hormone imposters, disrupting the communication between neurons and causing neuroinflammation linked to early-onset Parkinson's. The bottled water industry manufactured a fake demand in the 1980s by fear-mongering about municipal tap water, even though their product is often just filtered tap water sitting in a toxic chemical casing. So, your premium bottled water isn't coming from a fairy spring. It's a microplastic cocktail slowly dissolving your brain's defenses. 25. You've been told that taking photos of every meal, sunset, and concert with your smartphone is the perfect way to preserve memories for your brain to cherish later. Tech giants constantly upgrade camera lenses and cloud storage, encouraging you to document every waking second of your existence. The truth is, the act of taking a photo sends a biological signal to your hippocampus that says, "Don't bother remembering this. The hard drive has it." Cognitive psychologists call this the photo-taking impairment effect. Instead of deeply engaging with the visual and emotional context to encode a memory, you offload the work to a device. As a result, you have 50,000 photos on the cloud, but your actual biological brain draws a complete blank when trying to recall the details of the trip. This compulsion skyrocketed with the launch of Instagram, which transformed private moments into immediate, performative content that demanded capture over experience. Turns out, snapping 100 photos of your coffee doesn't preserve the memory. It turns your phone into a prosthetic brain while your real one withers. 26. You believe that breathing through your mouth while sleeping or concentrating at a desk is just a harmless physiological quirk that causes a bit of dry mouth. Very few people consider chronic mouth breathing to be a serious medical issue requiring intervention. The reality is that mouth breathing reduces oxygen delivery to the brain by up to 20% and permanently alters the structure of your face. The human nose produces nitric oxide, NO, a gas that dilates blood vessels and drastically increases oxygen absorption in the lungs. When you bypass the nose, you miss out on NaO, pushing your brain into a state of chronic low-grade hypoxia, oxygen starvation. This constant oxygen deficit spikes stress hormones, ruins focus, and triggers sleep apnea. The medical community historically ignored the mechanics of breathing due to extreme specialization. Dentists looked at teeth, pulmonologists at lungs, missing the holistic neurological impact of the airway. So, hanging your mouth open at night doesn't just make you drool. It's slowly suffocating the organ that makes you human. 27. You've been told that always staying positive, pushing away bad thoughts, and smiling through the pain, toxic positivity, is the hallmark of a resilient, healthy mind. Inspirational seminars, life coaches, and the self-help industry constantly preach the law of attraction, banning any negative expression. The truth is, constantly suppressing negative emotions requires a massive amount of metabolic energy from the cortex, leading to severe cognitive exhaustion. When you bury anger or sadness, your amygdala still registers the threat, but your prefrontal cortex has to work overtime to physically suppress your reaction. This neural conflict causes chronic stress, drives up systemic inflammation, and actually reduces the brain's capacity for empathy. The toxic positivity movement exploded in the corporate world in the 2000s because companies wanted compliant, smiling employees who blamed their burnout on a bad mindset rather than a toxic work environment. Turns out, forcing a smile when you're exhausted doesn't make you strong. It blows out your nervous system's fuse box just to maintain an illusion. 28. You believe that leaving a dim nightlight on or letting streetlights bleed through the blinds is perfectly fine, as long as your eyes are closed and you can fall asleep. Many adults are mildly afraid of total darkness and consider a small light source a necessary psychological comfort. The reality is that even a tiny amount of ambient light penetrating your eyelids is enough to suppress melatonin and ruin the brain's nightly cleansing cycle. Your skin and eyelids contain photoreceptors. When there is light in the room, the brain never truly registers a biological night. This keeps your resting heart rate elevated, induces morning insulin resistance, and prevents the cortex from properly sorting and consolidating the day's memories. The epidemic of bedroom light pollution is a byproduct of rapid urbanization and the proliferation of standby LED lights on every electronic device we own. So, that tiny nightlight in the corner isn't keeping the monsters away. It's stealing your brain's most vital deep sleep cycles. 29. You've been told that popping a few melatonin gummies every night is a safe, natural way to hack your sleep cycle without the dangers of pharmaceuticals. You chew them like candy. Pharmacies stock them in the vitamin aisle, and wellness influencers promote them as a harmless, plant-based sleep aid. The truth is, melatonin is a powerful neurohormone, and flooding your brain with massive synthetic doses shrinks your pineal gland and destroys its natural function. When you take a 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams gummy, you are ingesting a dose dozens of times higher than what the brain naturally produces. Chronic overuse desensitizes your brain's receptors, causing your body to stop producing its own melatonin. This shatters the microarchitecture of your sleep, leading to vivid nightmares and severe daytime brain fog. A loophole in U.S. supplement laws allows melatonin to be sold over the counter without the strict clinical trials required for actual hormones, letting companies sell wildly inaccurate dosages for maximum profit. Turns out, that sweet gummy isn't a magical sandman. It's a sledgehammer smashing your natural biological clock. 30. You believe that reading on a tablet or scrolling your phone in bed is perfectly safe as long as you use dark mode, white text on a black background. Tech companies market dark mode as a brilliant ergonomic innovation that saves battery life and protects your eyes and brain at night. The reality is that staring at tiny, glowing white text against a black background in a dark room causes severe neural visual strain, asthenopia. The human eye evolved to see dark objects against a light background under natural light. In dark mode, your pupils have to dilate wider to absorb the low light, which decreases your depth of field. Your eye muscles must constantly spasm to maintain focus on the glowing text. This severe visual tension sends stress signals to the cortex, triggering tension headaches and elevating blood pressure. Dark mode was originally used by early programmers to reduce screen burn-in on old monitors, not because it was a neuroscientifically proven method for relaxation. So, flipping your screen to black doesn't soothe your brain. It just forces your eye muscles to lift weights in the dark. 31. You've been told that constantly tracking your sleep stages with an expensive smartwatch is the ultimate way to biohack your health and improve your brain. Wearable tech companies position biometric tracking as the pinnacle of self-awareness and preventative medicine. The truth is, obsessing over sleep scores triggers a new clinical anxiety disorder called orthosomnia, which makes it impossible for your brain to achieve deep rest. Optical wrist sensors are notoriously inaccurate at predicting sleep stages because they only measure heart rate and movement, not brain waves. But waking up to a poor score of 6,100 triggers your amygdala's stress response. You go to bed the next night pressured to score higher, which spikes cortisol and completely ruins the relaxation required for sleep. Silicon Valley created this market by gamifying a basic physiological function, turning sleep into a test you can fail so they can sell you more hardware. Turns out, that $400 watch isn't fixing your sleep. It's harvesting your data and giving you a brand new anxiety disorder in return. 32. You believe that working in an open-plan office boosts collaboration, stimulates creativity, and keeps your brain engaged with your coworkers. Architecture firms and startup culture idolize the wall-less office as a symbol of modern, dynamic transparency. The reality is that the open-plan office is a neurological disaster that constantly bombards your brain with visual and auditory distractions, lowering productivity by 40%. The human brain requires visual privacy to enter a state of deep focus. In an open office, your brain subconsciously tracks the movement and noise of dozens of people as an evolutionary defense mechanism. This lack of spatial control depletes dopamine and spikes stress, actually causing employees to avoid face-to-face interaction and hide behind digital messaging. Business owners embrace this trend not because it unlocked genius, but because tearing down walls allowed them to cram twice as many humans into half the square footage, saving millions in rent. So that open desk doesn't make you a free-thinking creative. It turns you into a goldfish trapped in a very loud glass bowl. 33. You've been told that light, casual cardio, like a slow walk around the block, is all you need to release happy chemicals and keep your brain healthy. You avoid workouts that make you sweat or gasp for air. Health magazines often lower the bar for exercise to encourage sedentary people to just do something. The truth is, without high-intensity exercise that pushes your heart rate to 80% of its maximum, your brain will never produce the neurochemicals required for survival. BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is the ultimate anti-aging fertilizer for your neurons. A slow walk is great for your heart, but only when your muscles are pushed to their limit, like sprinting or heavy lifting, do they release irisin and lactate, which travel to the brain and command the massive production of BDNF. Avoiding intense effort starves your brain of its most powerful regenerative tool. The softening of exercise advice stems from the fitness industry's marketing psychology. Telling customers they have to work out to the point of exhaustion makes them cancel their memberships. Turns out, working out without breaking a sweat isn't self-care. It's an organized deception to make you feel good about doing the bare minimum. 34. You believe that eating microwavable, low-calorie diet meals is a convenient way to protect your brain and waistline from bad fats. Supermarkets dedicate entire aisles to packaged fitness meals designed for busy professionals trying to stay thin. The reality is that these ultra-processed meals are loaded with industrial seed oils and chemical emulsifiers that completely destroy your blood-brain barrier. To make these meals shelf-stable and palpable without fat, manufacturers use cheap seed oils, like soybean or canola, loaded with omega-6. When heated in a microwave, they produce highly toxic byproducts like 4-HNE, which directly cause systemic neuroinflammation and block the communication between synapses. The healthy label only refers to the calorie count, completely ignoring the toxic quality of the ingredients. This deception is maintained by the processed food lobby, which manipulated FDA labeling laws to hide cheap industrial chemicals under the guise of plant-based ingredients. So, That low-cal microwavable tray isn't shrinking your waistline. It's marinating your brain in a bath of industrial machine oil. 35. You've been told that second screening, scrolling through your phone while simultaneously watching a movie on a big screen, proves you have a highly advanced modern brain. Society accepts watching Netflix while replying to group chats as the default state of relaxation in the digital age. The truth is, forcing your eyes and brain to constantly shift focal length and context between two glowing screens causes micro-damage to the brain's white matter. This dual engagement shatters your ability to consolidate short-term memory. Your brain cannot deeply encode either stream of information, leaving you in a state of cognitive limbo. Studies show heavy second screeners have reduced gray matter in the anterior cingulate cortex and higher rates of social anxiety. Media conglomerates and advertisers love this habit because it allows them to hijack your attention on multiple platforms simultaneously, doubling their ad revenue. Turns out, you aren't a hyper-efficient data processor. You're just a puppet being manipulated by two algorithms at the exact same time. 36. You believe that reading quick summaries, 280-character tweets, and bite-sized captions is enough to absorb all the world's knowledge without wasting time. Apps like Blinkist and social media platforms built empires on the premise that brevity is the ultimate form of intelligence. The reality is that abandoning deep reading destroys your brain's capacity for linear thinking and deep empathy. When you read a long-form book, your brain has to construct a narrative, hold complex details in working memory for hours, and simulate the emotions of others. This trains highly complex neural pathways. Consuming only pre-chewed information pills causes your brain to lose the cognitive patience required to follow a logical argument from start to finish. The death of deep reading is the inevitable result of the attention economy, which must chop information into microscopic pieces so you can scroll faster and view more ads. So, reading 100 tweets a day doesn't make you a polymath. It turns your brain into a sieve that can't hold a single complex thought. 37. You've been told that ignoring mild hearing loss as you get older, or refusing to wear hearing aids, is no big deal and totally normal. Many adults consider slight deafness to be a natural privilege of aging, and avoid hearing aids because they look old. The truth is, untreated hearing loss is the single greatest modifiable risk factor for developing Alzheimer's and dementia. When you can't hear clearly, the auditory processing centers of the brain begin to atrophy from lack of stimulation. Worse, the brain has to divert massive amounts of cognitive energy just to decode what people are saying, stealing resources away from memory encoding. This communication struggle subconsciously leads to social isolation, the final death blow to neuronal survival. The stigma around hearing aids stems from bulky, ugly designs of the past and a medical industry that failed to educate the public on the direct neurological link between the ear and the brain. Turns out, pretending you can hear the conversation doesn't protect your pride. It quietly severs the neural cables connecting you to humanity. 38. You believe that once you reach adulthood, you should stick to what you know and stop trying to learn complex, uncoordinated physical skills like a new sport, dance, or instrument. Society and the educational system are designed to stop teaching physical skills after age 25. Focusing entirely on sedentary desk intelligence. The reality is that abandoning novel physical movement halts the most powerful form of neurogenesis available to the adult brain. Complex motor coordination forces the left and right hemispheres to communicate rapidly, physically thickening the corpus callosum. This is a massive, system-wide neurological stimulus that a crossword puzzle can never replicate. Quitting physical learning causes the protective myelin sheath on these neural pathways to thin out and degrade. The idea that adults only work with their minds is a toxic relic of the Industrial Revolution, which looked down on physical coordination as the domain of manual laborers. So, refusing to take a dance class because you're too old doesn't preserve your dignity. It pushes your brain into a nursing home a decade early. 39. You've been told that staying home alone for weeks and avoiding social interaction is just a healthy expression of introversion that should be respected. Internet pop culture heavily romanticizes canceling plans, staying in bed, and total isolation as a valid form of self-care. The truth is, chronic loneliness disguised as introversion causes as much brain inflammation as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Humans are evolutionary pack animals. Prolonged isolation triggers the sympathetic nervous system to release cortisol, as the primitive brain assumes being separated from the tribe means imminent death. This inflammation eats away at the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. True introversion means needing quiet time to recharge, not severing deep human connections entirely. The glorification of isolation is amplified by the delivery and e-commerce industries who profit immensely when you never leave your house and only interact with screens. Turns out, staying under the covers for a month doesn't make you a mysterious introvert. It slowly suffocates your brain from a lack of social oxygen. 40. You believe that your intelligence, memory, and ability to learn are fixed traits determined entirely by your genetics at birth. Standardized testing and traditional schooling convince us that our cognitive ceiling is poured in concrete the day we are born. The reality is that believing your brain is fixed actively shuts down your own biological neuroplasticity. When you hold a fixed mindset and believe you are just bad at math or have a terrible memory, your brain refuses to release acetylcholine and dopamine when faced with a challenge. These chemicals are mandatory for forming new synaptic connections. Neuroscientists call this a biological self-fulfilling prophecy. Your brain refuses to change because your consciousness commanded it not to. The myth of fixed intelligence was weaponized by early 20th century eugenicists to classify and oppress different social classes, a cruel pseudoscientific concept that somehow survived. So, accepting that you are naturally unintelligent isn't humility. It's a chemical kill switch you voluntarily flipped inside your own head. 41. You've been told that brain fog, forgetfulness, and mental fatigue are just normal side effects of modern life, easily fixed by buying the right brain-boosting supplement. The billion-dollar nootropic industry constantly pushes exotic pills and powders promising to unlock your limitless potential. The truth is, brain fog is the screaming alarm of a severely inflamed nervous system, and no unregulated supplement can put out a fire fueled by a toxic lifestyle. Lethargy and poor focus aren't caused by a lack of magical adaptogens. They are symptoms of a leaky blood-brain barrier, chronic sleep deprivation, or a severe lack of real vitamin B12 and omega-3s from actual food. Taking cheap stimulants or unregulated herbs is like putting black tape over the check engine light in your car. The commercial wellness industry loves selling symptom relief because curing the root cause, by fixing your sleep and diet, cuts off their recurring revenue stream. Turns out, that expensive brain-boosting pill isn't fixing your cognition. It's just buying you a little more time before the whole system crashes. 42. You believe that psychiatric medications, like SSRIs for depression or anti-anxiety pills, are targeted cures that perfectly fix a chemical imbalance in your brain, Just like insulin fixes diabetes, psychiatrists, pharmaceutical commercials, and the mainstream medical establishment have repeated this exact analogy for 30 years. Here is the final, shocking truth. The chemical imbalance theory of depression was conclusively debunked by modern neuroscience, and long-term use of these drugs physically alters your brain structure in ways we barely understand. A massive 2022 umbrella review proved there is no consistent link between low serotonin and depression. SSRIs do not balance a missing chemical. They induce an artificial state of emotional blunting. When taken for years, the brain fights back by permanently downregulating its own receptors, creating severe, sometimes permanent biological dependence and horrific withdrawal syndromes that medicine has no cure for. The chemical imbalance theory was a brilliant marketing invention by Big Pharma in the late 1980s to sell Prozac. They rebranded complex human trauma, neuroinflammation, and toxic environments as a simple biological disease requiring a lifetime subscription to their pills. So, the pill you swallow every morning isn't a precision engineer repairing your mind. It's a chemical welder fusing all your emotional switches in the off position. The greatest trick the modern tech, food, and pharmaceutical industries ever pulled was convincing you that your brain is inherently fragile, destined to decline, and entirely dependent on their artificial interventions. The systems we interact with daily are explicitly designed to harvest our attention, disrupt our rest, and inject inflammatory habits into our routines for profit. But now you know the rules of the game. You don't need expensive brain training apps, synthetic sleep gummies, or isolation to protect your mind. You just need to return to the biological baselines your brain craves. Deep rest, unprocessed fuel, complex physical challenges, and the quiet space to actually think. If this list made you realize how you've been unknowingly aging your own mind, drop the toxic habit I didn't cover in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you want to keep dismantling the lies we're spoon-fed every day, because a sharp, skeptical mind is the absolute best weapon you have to protect your health. Turn off the screen, put down the phone, and take your brain back.